Real estate investing is a lot more in depth than some of the stuff that we've covered. I don't want to leave any cliffhangers, so I don't want to make it close and not get to the finish. So this one might run just a little bit longer, but we'll still try to be done by 1 o'clock, and then we can keep networking. So that's the whole purpose of why this group was formed and started and has been going for the last few years, is to get everyone together, share business, do deals together, lend money, help each other out. So that's why we're here. This topic is very close to my heart. Who in here has heard of Profit First before? Cool, awesome. Who did I tell about Profit First? Couple people? Okay. I don't always share everything I'm doing, but I share what I know about Profit First as often as I can. Anytime I hear someone have some of the problems that I had in the past, I share this system because it is incredible. So that's what we're going to go over today, is Profit First for real estate investing. Actually, before we get started, so I got a copy of the book right here that I'm going to give away. And I said whoever brought the most guests is going to get this copy. So who had at least one new guest show up?
Brought me, myself, and I.
I've seen you before. Okay, anyone with two guests show up? Boom. Anyone above that? No one beat 2, right? Awesome. All right, y'all get a copy of the book.
Where's your gas?
Good, and your name?
I'm Ross.
Ross?
Ross
Awesome.
Shredder,
Good to meet you.
Brandon's the one that invited me.
Brandon, good to meet y'all. Sweet. Okay, we'll get it rolling. That book just came out in December. So it's an awesome book. That's what we're going to be talking about. So who's heard that it's a good idea in investing and in business to pay yourself first? Right? This is commonly put out there of, oh, you need to be paying yourself first. I think Robert Kiyosaki talks about it. But my question is, how do you actually do that? Right? How do you pay yourself first? Everyone talks about it, but how do you actually make it happen? What does that mean? So today we're going to talk about how to pay yourself first, and then what paying yourself first can do for you. Quick disclaimer, if you don't have a business, me and Vanessa, my wife, we actually apply this to our personal finances as well, this whole system. You can apply it personally and, pay yourself first. If you do have a business, real estate or otherwise, then I'm just going to tell you, you have to apply this to your business. It is really, really powerful stuff. So we're going to talk about these things. So I know most of you, some of you I've just met today, but I'm a very transparent person. So I'm going to share a story that's personal to me, why I started using the Profit First system. It was January 2019, and this whole month was the worst month of my life by far. Nothing even comes close. So at that time, I had a growing business. It was doing really well, and my VAs were making $2 an hour, which who is surprised that you could pay someone $2 an hour, right? They make a lot more now, but over there in the Philippines, that was a lot of money. The crazy thing is that they were making more money than I was. And that wasn't just at that time. That was 2016, 2017, 2018, and then starting 2019. I was making roughly $1.50 per hour for all the time that I put into the business. So if the VA number blew your mind, I'm here living in America with a much higher cost of living, earning just basically nothing from the business. So what that caused is there was a lot of guilt anytime I took any money out of the business, right? I don't know if any of you can relate, but you have money in your business account, you want to use it for marketing or for growth or to build a team, and you also need some money to pay your rent or your personal expenses. And you may experience some guilt if you take money out of your business because you think, is this going to hurt someone else? Is this going to stifle the growth of my company? And you don't really know. And so I was really guilty anytime I took money out just because I didn't know. Is putting money in my pocket going to hurt someone else down the line in my business? So like I said, the business was doing great, but I just had no clue what was going on the money side of things. The cycle, you might also be able to relate to this. I had one bank account, so everything went into this one account. That means if we were rehabbing a property and got some funds from the bank, if we got some rent money, if we sold a property, however we made income, it all went into one account. And then out of that same account, we would have our payroll, marketing expenses, mortgages, all these expenses. And so when the account was growing, I felt great. I was like, yes, I'm a success. Things are going awesome. This is great. But then when we would spend the money, then I would almost feel like a failure in a room like this. I would want to hide in the corner. I wouldn't feel good being in a room just around other successful investors like all of y'all. And it was just because it was that roller coaster and I didn't have a good system. Now, part of what made this month the worst is that I had just bought a bunch of rentals in 2018. I bought a bunch of properties, went from owning very few rentals to owning a bunch of rentals. And I knew property tax was a thing. And I always said, yeah, once the end of the year, beginning of the next year comes, then I'll start setting aside money or I'll have some money. I'm sure I will. Well, January came. I had $40,000 in property taxes that were due. Some of y'all might have experienced this your first year owning rentals, but the time came and I did not have money set aside. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was almost like a crisis. What am I gonna do type thing, because I didn't plan for it. I woke up every day during this time period with my heart racing. Literally, I would wake up and have an adrenaline spike and just be ready to fight, just from the moment my eyes open. And that was not a fun place to be. That's why I'm so passionate about this. So income's profit first. I'm talking to a guy that ran a local bank around here, and he told me about it. So we were just talking. He shared this with me, said you have to learn it. You have to use this system. He ran the bank off of profit first. So I was like, okay, I don't know how it can help me, but I'll give it a shot. And that was right in January of 2019. So what I'm about to share on profit first, you might consider this if you want a system to give you clarity on finances. That's one thing it'll do. If you don't want to feel guilty paying yourself from your business, that is a huge thing for business owners. That clarity is going to allow you to know how much you can pay yourself and how your business is doing. Maybe you don't even know if you're making money or not. Definitely need a system like this if you want to increase profitability. And even if you want to start a new business in real estate, outside of real estate, but what's holding you back might be the thought that I'm going to lose money for 2 to 3 years before I ever break even and make a profit. And so you're not starting that business because of that. If you use this system, you can be profitable from day one. And that's not just some claim, that's how the system is designed. So profit first, I'm going to talk about what the system is. We're going to start high level, and then at the end we're going to get into steps that you can take to implement the profit first system. It flips traditional accounting on its head. So how do you normally calculate profits with accounting? It's income minus expenses equals profit, right? So you get your income. Again, that one account I was talking about, all my money comes in, and then I say, wow, I've got all this money. I spend. I invest. I spend money on marketing, whatever it is. And then at the end of the year, whatever happens to be left over is my profit. When I state it that way, that sounds kind of haphazard. It doesn't sound like a good way to plan for a profitable business. So the profit first system says you take your income minus your profits. You determine the profits that you set aside. That will then tell you how much money you have left over to spend on expenses. So it flips traditional accounting on its head, and it says, hey, you're gonna, at the end of the day, you're already gonna have your profits secured. You're gonna have to work with whatever you have left to spend on expenses. Doing that, it's gonna make you innovate again. You have a question?
Yeah, what if your expenses overran the number that you say, like that you set aside?
So that's a good question. It's kind of a deeper question, but what I would ask back is who is spending that money? It's all a choice. So it creates constraints for you. Doing it this way creates constraints to where you have clarity on, this is how much money I have to spend on this particular thing. And there's a process actually that helps you get to that place if your expenses are too high, that we'll talk about in a little bit. Is that clear, pretty clear?
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, just like that first one on there, it's going to make you more creative on what you spend money on, how to get the result. You get the same result by spending less money if you find a good solution. And it's going to guarantee you have a profitable business. So 3 reasons why this works. This is not some budgeting software that you're going to have to be really disciplined and just be on point. It's really an easy system to follow. Parkinson's law. So I'm going to take that off the screen real quick. Does anyone know what Parkinson's law is, just generally? So Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time allotted for it. So if you give someone a project in college and they have the whole semester to put this project together, they're going to take the whole semester to do it. They're not going to finish the second week, right? But if you tell them they have 3 days to do the project, they'll find a way to finish it in 3 days. That's Parkinson's law. How that is applied here, it's the big plate versus small plate that I talked about. Before, all of my money was in one account. All my expenses came out of this one larger account. And so I would spend more. I would spend more than I actually should have been. But what this system does is it uses Parkinson's law and it puts it on small plates. If y'all have heard of the small plate diet, psychologically it's been proven to work, is that you get smaller containers and you eat less food. And you don't have to think about it. It's that one simple change. So this is applying Parkinson's law with the small plates to your business. Again, you're going to have to run a leaner business and avoid waste. Second reason why this profit first system works is it doesn't go against your natural behaviors. So if y'all think back to January of 2019, what I was doing, I would wake up, I would be ready to fight, then I would go check my bank account and see how much money do we have, and then I would make decisions based on that. And I'd like to say that I'm this great budgeter and I'm amazing with setting all these projections and then hitting my budgets. That's not me and that's not most people. If someone is like that, then kudos, you are way above where I'm at. But it's kind of naturally what we do, right? We make a decision. We want to think we're sophisticated, but we look at our bank account, yeah, I can afford this, and then we do it, right? So this system works with that. And the third reason is it's going to give you clarity. You're going to know exactly where you're at. You're not going to be wondering. So once you have this profit first system set up, here's how it'll look. You'll have multiple bank accounts. All of your income is going to go into one place. It's the income account. On a regular cadence, you're going to take the money from that income account and disperse it to all of your other accounts. I'll show you what those will be. And then you just check the bank account balances daily and you know how you're doing. If the account's growing, hey, this is going well. I'm good. Maybe I can spend more. If it's shrinking, okay, maybe it's time to pump the brakes or change what we're doing. So these are the accounts. If you do the full profit first system for real estate investing specifically, you'll end up with these accounts. By the way, I'm going to be sharing this, so however you learn best. We'll have this slideshow for y'all in the Facebook group. So you don't have to write down every single thing that's here. But the income account is first. This one is huge. Rehab / other people's money. This one is huge for real estate investing because in our business, a lot of times we will get a loan from a hard money lender or a bank when we purchase a property to renovate that property. If you aren't using this system and you have all that money just in one central account, let's say you get $50,000 for a rehab and then you earn $20,000 on this flip and you say, wow, I've got $70,000. I'm going to spend $60,000 on marketing, right? If all your money is together in one place, you're going to get to the end of this project and you're not going to have any money to pay the contractors. And it's going to put you in a real bind. So that's why that account is really important. You'll have a profit account, obviously, separate account that your profits will go into, taxes account, owner's pay account, operating expenses account. This one will be your, whatever your current bank account is, use this one because you have your auto pays and everything already set up out of it. And emergency savings.
Quick question.
Yeah.
When you first get started on this, should you put it like in your name on the bank account, or should you put it in your business name, like business account or personal account?
I would put it in the business's name.
Business on all of them?
Yeah, the one exception would be owner's pay because for me personally, that's just my personal checking account, so I just put the money straight into there, but everything else is in the business name. So down the line, lenders may want to look at your bank statements, and so they want to see it in the business name, even if it's broken up into different accounts. So those are the accounts. Now we're going to go, there's 5 steps to get everything set up to implement Profit First. First step, you just have to figure out where you're starting. So this step's pretty simple. Pull all your numbers and figure out what was your income for the last year and what were your expenses for the last year. Pretty simple first step. So an example is, let's say you had $200,000 in income, which, by the way, you can pull this off of your accounting software like QuickBooks. You can get a report. Or if you just have a bank account, you can go in there and see all the deposits that were made to know how much your income was. Income $200,000, expenses $180,000. So you're at about 90%. Every dollar that comes in, you're spending about 90% on operating expenses. Now, if you paid yourself out of here, that doesn't count. We're just looking at all the expenses that you have compared to income.
Austin, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you use part of that money to purchase another property, are you still counting that as an expense?
That's a good question. So one extra account that I just opened up about 2 months ago is a real estate purchase account. So I like to keep that separate now.
Okay.
I keep that separate from my operating expenses. But for the longest time, I just had that in my operating expenses account. It was all together.
The account is an expense.
Yep. So we'll come back to this 90% number. But if you're implementing this system, that's the first thing you'll do is just see what was your total income, what were your total expenses, and what percentage of your income was your expense total. Step 2, you're going to set your target allocation percentages. So we talked about having all your money come into the income account and then dispersing it into different accounts. So these are going to be your target numbers. And it's pretty easy to set. I've got a little cheat sheet from the book, so I'll get to that in just a second. But this is kind of your future goal. You say, hey, I'm new to this system, but when I get really good at this system, I want my numbers to be here. I want to have X amount of profit out of every dollar that comes in. I want my expenses to only be this much, that sort of thing. So from the book, these are the recommended numbers. So basically, if you're a company that is just a startup up to $250,000 a year in income, These are the ideal percentages that you'll transfer to profit, taxes, owner's pay, and operating expenses.
What's the difference between profit and owner's pay?
So owner's pay is what you get paid for doing the job. Profit is what you get for owning the company. So if you look at this scenario, as the company grows, the ideal owner's pay goes down. Why is that? Because the owner is only doing a smaller amount of work compared to what all the business is doing. There's probably a bigger team, more people doing work, and profit percentage goes up, up, and then it goes back down once you hit the scale of 1 to 5 million. But the amount of profit you're making goes up with every segment. So it basically switches you from an employee to a business owner as you scale with it.
So the profit stays within the business and the owner's pay goes to the owner?
The owner's pay goes straight to the owner. The profit, you can decide what to do with it. So I'll go into some ideas a little bit later on that account. So basically, wherever you're at with yearly revenue for your business, if it's a real estate business, and this is specifically for a transactional company, not just a rental company. So if you're a realtor or do flips or wholesaling or a combination, that's what these numbers are ideal for. This is where you want to be. This is your target. It's not where you're going to start. So the next step is to set your caps, which is the current allocation percentage. So this says, hey, this is great. You know, one day I want to have these big profits, and you know, I want to have low expenses, and I want to be paid a lot, and that's great, but that's probably not where you're starting, right? Because in that example, they didn't have 30% operating expenses. The example I gave, they had 90% operating expenses. So you're going to do an exercise to see where you are going to start, your current allocation percentages. And this is where you're going to immediately start using these numbers. They're obviously not going to be your target. They're not going to be at your goal yet, but this is just a starting place. I'll show you how to get them set up. The one key tip here, wherever you're going to start, I actually recommend starting conservatively. Start with something that is definitely attainable, something where you're not going to miss it. So 1% to profit, you're not going to miss that. Out of that $200,000, that's $2,000 a year. If you can't figure out a way to save that little bit of money, then you're not really trying hard enough. So start small, something that you know you can do. It's not going to be a big deal. So back to that example earlier. Let's say this person actually had $250,000 flow in. Now we're not going to call it income because $50,000 of that was a rehab loan. They worked with a hard money lender. They got a rehab loan for $50,000. So that money is instantly going to go into that rehab account. It's going to get transferred there. You're not going to touch it until you spend it on the rehab. So they're left with $200,000 in actual revenue. Now, at the time they looked at this, they said, wow, I'm spending 90% of my revenue on operating expenses. So that's where we're going to start. You're going to fill that number in first. I put 85%. You want to stretch yourself just a little bit, challenge yourself to lower your operating expenses wherever you're starting at. That's the goal of this. So that left 15%. So you have to make some money. So 8% went to owner's pay, 6% went to taxes, 1% to profit. Total of 100%. So as this $200,000 comes in throughout the year, every single period that they disperse it, 1% will go towards profit, 6% towards taxes, 8% towards owner's pay, and 85% to operating expenses. Any questions on that one? Okay.
Taxes are 12%.
Well, in this scenario, they're not going to pay that much in taxes because they don't have hardly any profit. So that's probably more than they need. So, but it's a good starting place. All right. Everyone knows that bush, right? I hope it's not copyrighted because it's in my slide. I don't know if you can copyright a bush. So in that example, we lowered our operating expenses, right? So last year, we spent more than what we have to spend this year, right? So the logical next step is we're going to prune it down. Prune your expenses. And this is what the book talks about. This is the process. And this one is kind of the only step that's a little bit tough. It shows if you're committed to it. But extremely, extremely eye-opening. So you're going through every single expense for the past year. I did this on a spreadsheet. You could print it out, print out your bank statement, whatever you want to do. And you can get through them quickly because here's what you're going to do. You're going to mark it with a P, an R, or a U. P means this expense directly led to profit in the company. It produced revenue. So those are ones that you're going to keep.
Give an example.
So let's say you spent $1,000 on a specific marketing channel and it gave you 5 deals from that one channel. That one directly was profitable. R is reduce or replace. So this means, hey, I need this to run my business, right? We're trying to cut the fat, not the meat. You cut the meat, your business is going to crumble. You cut the fat, you're going to have a lean business. So mark an R next to things where you say, I might be overspending on this, or you know what, there might be a more cost-effective way to do this, but I still need it in the company. U is unnecessary. And these are the expenses that you're just going to cut out. So you just go through the list of all of your expenses one at a time. It's either a P, an R, or a U. And then that will actually give you your action plan. So you'll have an action plan. The stuff that's unnecessary, as quickly as you can, cut it out. Whatever it is, whatever the expense is, just cut it out of the business. Over time, you can set goals to replace things or reduce the cost on things that are too expensive. You have to be really honest with yourself. I'm not going to look at your numbers, your expenses, only you are. And if you say more things are producing profit than actually are, you're only going to be hurting yourself and keeping yourself from benefiting from this whole system. So there's the answer to the question on if your expenses are too high. You go through this process. And the last step to implement, open your bank accounts. So one bank account per Profit First account. They can all be at the same place, except for the profit account and the emergency fund. You want those at a bank that's kind of hard to get to. You want to put a barrier in place for yourself whenever you get tempted to go I'll just transfer that money into my operating expense account and we'll make it back. We'll double the money, right? This takes away that temptation. So have those at a different bank account. I don't have checks for mine. And if you don't want online access, that's even better. So I did want to give you all a resource for this because as I've shared Profit First with people, one of the questions they ask is what's a good bank to do this? I use First Bank and Trust, but they've started adding a lot of fees to their accounts recently. So I wouldn't really recommend them for it, sadly. There's a company called Brex, Brex.com, and they have a host of services, but you can also open up 7 bank accounts just through their software. It's a virtual bank, but it's FDIC insured. So if your money disappears up to $250,000, you can get it. So that's a resource that we are just now looking into. So I haven't used it, but we're going to start using it. So quick recap. First step, figure out where you're starting. Second step, figure out what column you fit into for your target allocation percentages. Third step, using where you're starting, come up with your current allocation percentages. Prune the expenses, and open your bank accounts. So those are the 5 steps to get this system rolling. And once you set that up, you're good to go. Now we can put it into action. So your money is going to come into your income account. From there, you're going to transfer money at your own cadence. Something I love about that book, Profit First for Real Estate Investing, is it's not a one size fits all. It's whatever your business is doing. So we do it bi-weekly, and so every 2 weeks we will take our income account and disperse it to all these different accounts. But maybe you're only doing 2 flips a year. Well, you don't want to just look at a zero every 2 weeks and like, maybe next time, maybe next time. Just do it twice a year. When you sell your flip, run the profit first allocations. When you sell your next one, do the same thing. So just do it at whatever cadence works for you. You don't have to take what I'm doing. Figure out what works for you. And then once that time comes, you'll transfer money into these accounts based on preset percentages. What that's going to allow you to do, back to what I was talking about earlier, is you get to make informed decisions now. Now, we're operating with our natural tendency, which is we just look at our bank account. How much money do I have? Can I afford this? Yes or no? We're still using that, but we have different accounts. We have that for our rehabs. We have that for our operating expenses. I told you all about my real estate purchase account. I've got it for that. Maybe you want to have a marketing account. I don't have one, but maybe that makes sense for you. You can just look at your bank account and make a decision. And you know, you can set goals. Say, okay, I need more money for marketing. I know that I'm at 85% expenses, so I need to make a little bit more money than just what I need to spend on marketing, because I'm only getting 85% of what I make. So you just get to make really clear, easy decisions going forward. And that's your business on Profit First. I love using this little GIF anytime I can in my presentations. So once you're on this system for a little bit, there is a quarterly process. You're going to make some little tweaks. Distribute profits. Now, you get to decide what you do with your profits. So some people, you may say, well, I can't use this system because I have credit card debt or I have this or that debt. You can't pay off your debts unless you're making a profit. You're never going to pay off your debts unless you have an excess of money above what you're spending to pay that off. So some people at the beginning will take their profits and just 95% of them go to paying off debt. Maybe you want to have free and clear properties, so you use your profits for that. Maybe you want to invest it. A lot of people leave half of their profits every quarter in there just for an additional savings. Whatever you do, reward yourself, even if it's tiny. Take some money from your profits, which if you're on this system, it's not a question. You will have profits. You will have money in the profit account. Give yourself something as a reward for making this great decision and for following this system. It's going to keep you on it. So every quarter, you're going to look at your account balances like I was talking about. If an account's just really high, then, for instance, operating expenses. If I'm really high on operating expenses, and I know, great, our business has done a great job of being streamlined and being innovative, and we're not spending as much. We can reduce that number and increase our profit number. That's how you grow your profit number. From there, based on whatever you observe, you'll adjust your numbers every quarter. So that 1% profit, the second quarter, maybe you go 1.5%. Or maybe you catch on to this really quick and you realize, hey, I do have good profit margins. I was just being lazy. I was spending money that I didn't need to, and you can bump it up to 10%. So you're going to adjust those quarterly. So knowing that you have that to look forward to, don't be afraid to just start at a low level. You want to be able to sustain this long term. So to wrap this up, I'm going to kind of show the picture of that nightmare of a month that I told you all about to what the system has helped us to do today. 3 years later. I'm finally earning more than my VAs. That's a very low bar, but it's happening now. So that one's kind of a joke. I have no guilt when I take money from the business, when I get paid. If you own a business, you should be getting paid for the work you're doing. You shouldn't be ripping yourself off. Now, I wouldn't change how I started. I wouldn't change making just $1.50 an hour for the first few years, because I was single, I was living by myself, and I don't spend any money on anything. But for me to get married, I couldn't do that, right? So don't just sabotage your life because you either don't have clarity or just because you feel like that's what you have to do. You don't have to do that. So I don't have guilt because I know for me to get my percentage for the owner's pay, that means the company has made X amount more that covers our operating expenses, that covers our taxes, that goes into savings. All these other things are taken care of first. So I don't worry about it. It gave me a lot of clarity on the cash flow in the business. And those property taxes that I mentioned, getting on this system for 2 months, I didn't think it was going to affect much, but I just said, okay, sure, we'll do it. We paid that $40,000 off in less than 2 months using this system. And I didn't miss the money. I had no clue where it was going to come from. I didn't know where I was going to come up with that on top of everything else. But I don't know how it worked, but it worked. And this year, just in our profit account, we have way more than is needed to pay off the property taxes and to pay income taxes for whatever I take home from the business. Being in that position, being at a place where tax time comes around, whether it's income tax or property tax, and you're not just scrambling and you're not absolutely terrified, but you're actually looking forward to it. You're like, oh yeah, I've got that set aside. We took care of that. We were prudent. It gives so much peace of mind. And the good thing is, now that extra money turns into profit. It goes into the profit account, anything that we don't actually spend on the taxes for the year. So it's a night and day difference. The underlying business, sure, it's grown and developed, but really the big change that contrasts 3 years ago versus this month is just the profit first system and what it's done for me. So the reason that I took all this time, which by the way, I wanted to still be in Houston. We drove down there, only got to stay for 2 days, drove back because I'm really passionate about this and sharing it because of how much of an impact it's had on me. Otherwise, I might have just said, we'll go virtual or do it next time, whatever. I really wanted to share this with all of you. So, and I hope that if you see value in it, that you can implement it. It's not going to help me out at all. It already did help me out. I know how big of an impact it made on me. So any questions now that we've reviewed the whole system that y'all had about the Profit First system?
How long did it take you to get used to the different accounts?
It instantly made sense. Other than I had to tell a few people, hey, send my income to this new account. It just made sense. It clicked. I was like, oh, I don't have $50,000 to spend on whatever. That account was cut to $20,000. Oh, okay. So I really need to watch what I'm spending on my expenses. And I had my rehab fund set aside. So it was, as soon as I set it up, it was pretty instant of, this makes sense. I know exactly where I stand with all these different aspects.
Do you separate your rehabs from your rentals, or do you have it all out?
Well, for me, I kind of use all of my rental revenue plus my flips and everything else just goes into income. And then I have a set percentage based on the total income. I do, since I have such a high number of rentals and pay a lot in mortgages, let me see if I can back up to it. Let me go back in this presentation right here. Okay. So just how we're taking out the rehab money before we actually start this is what we're dispersing, the $200,000. I do the same thing with mortgages. So out of all the rental income, I subtract out the mortgage payments, and then I disperse the percentages. So that way I'm not, if I'm trying to get my operating expenses down to 50% or 30% or whatever, I'm not counting all the rental income and then only taking a small percentage to pay the mortgages. Those get paid, and then the cash flow is the real revenue, if that makes sense.
So for operating expenses, that also
contractors, how I have it set up, we pay them out of rehab account. The operating expenses pays just about everything else.
How many bank accounts do you have now?
Oh boy. See, I do this for personal too. So I have a fun account. That's my free tip of the day. The fun account is the best idea for your personal finances if you're married, or if, like me, you just like to delay gratification. Give yourself a little bit. So how many bank accounts do I have first? I think I have 12. Yeah, it's a lot, but it's not, once they're there, they're there. I mean, so, but yeah, the fun account, pro tip for marriage, and you're engaged now, Samuel, so this is this is gonna help you start on the right foot. So me and Vanessa each have a fun account, and out of all the income we make, we use this same, funnel. We have a percentage. So a small percentage goes to my fun account, a small percentage goes to hers, and she can go ball out at Sephora or get her hair done or go on a shopping spree. I don't care. It's her fun account. She can do whatever she wants.
Hair done is an expense, Austin. It's
That's fun. I like her as a brunette. And then I can do whatever I want. I can go speculate on crypto or go buy whatever I want to do with my account, and she doesn't get mad. She's like, oh yeah, it doesn't affect me. We don't have that friction of, well, I think we should be saving, and I think we should have some fun sometime. That argument doesn't happen because we each have our own fun accounts. So that's my free extra tip for the day.
Do you mind me asking what percentage is y'all's fund account?
I think it fluctuates. So we have some other accounts like investment, paying down mortgage. When we want those higher, the fund account will go down. We adjust them all. It's between like 5 and 8%. Yeah. So I guess I'm not a lot of fun, but I'm a little fun.
More fun than I am. I keep mine pretty steady.
You do that too?
I got 30 different bank accounts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we do this for
There you go.
and business.
So-
We call ours hobby accounts.
Nice.
And anytime if we sell a hobby we're no longer doing, any money we make off of selling that hobby can go back into the hobby account.
Nice. That's good. Yeah. So that's an example of Chase took it and took it to the next level because that's what fits him. That's how his brain works. You can start as small or go as extravagant as you want with it, with just for whatever works.
Do you do debit cards and multiple debit cards for each account? Are you doing checkbooks? How do you move your money around?
I move the money around just through internal transfers.
Not necessarily between accounts, but like when you're ordering materials and you need to pay with debit card, credit card, do you have a different debit
We actually
card
have,
for each account?
we use Divvy for a lot of our expenses. But actually Brex, that link I was showing you where you can set up multiple bank accounts, I don't know too well, but I know they have some functionality where you can have credit cards and log all your expenses and do some different things in there, if anyone wanted to look into that. What other questions? Cool. We'll wrap it up here. And I want to give a shout out to Joel with Foss Media, is his company. So they do videography and just different media. He's been recording this. I got a little mic on. And I'm really glad because this is going to allow everyone that wasn't here to see it, and everyone can watch it over again. And we'll share this slideshow so that everyone can have it. But big thank you to Joel. Let's give him a round of applause for doing that. So anyways, if y'all need any kind of videos done of real estate or anything, talk to Joel right here afterwards. And our next meeting, try and scroll to the end. I believe it's February 15th. Boom. February 15th, we'll be meeting at noon. So that's it. Y'all can stay as long as you want, as long as they're open. Or if you need to run out, then go for it. Thanks for coming.